Welcome to the Kaleidoscope of Possibilities, Alternative Perspectives on Mental Health. My name is Dr. Adriana Popescu. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and leader in the field of mental health, energy psychology, addiction, trauma, and empowerment. In this podcast, we will be exploring mental health from a variety of perspectives, from the spiritual to the shamanic and beyond. What if mental illness isn't everything we think it is? What if everything we see as a pathology is actually a possibility? What else is possible with mental health? Hi, everyone. Dr. Adriana Popescu here with you today with another episode of Kaleidoscope of Possibilities, Alternative Perspectives on Mental Health. I'm very excited for our conversation today. We are meeting with Dr. Njideka Olatunde, who has been at the forefront of holistic wellness, specializing in medication-free alternatives to pain relief. As a master reflexologist and leading expert in the transformative practice of reflexology-Touchology, she has empowered thousands to break free from the cycle of pain using the power of touch as a first-line approach before treatment. With a unique blend of time-honored healing traditions and modern wellness strategies, Dr. Olatunde's work bridges the gap between natural health solutions and conventional medicine. She's trained over 2,500 reflexology practitioners, mentored countless others, and transformed over 3,000 lives through her holistic pain relief methods. Pain doesn't have to control your life, and relief is not only possible, it's just a touch away. Whether you're struggling with physical, emotional, or mental pain, Dr. Olatunde is here to guide you on a journey toward healing and empowerment, helping you to live a pain-free life. So welcome. So excited to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to sharing information with your listeners.
Yes, that's the whole point of this podcast, is to get more information out there into the hands of people who are struggling with different mental health issues or physical health issues, to help our fellow healers and practitioners know more about the modalities that are out there and available. I talk a lot on the show about the limitations of kind of the traditional Western medicine and psychiatric paradigms that certainly have their limitations with the over reliance on medications and stuff. So I'm sure you have plenty to say on all of that. But I would love to start us off, as we usually do on the show, with an introduction of tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be doing the work that you're doing now.
Okay, it's a long story, but I'll put it in a short presentation for you. My original background, I grew up with home remedies and dealing with the natural approaches to healthcare. So as a child, doctors kind of lived in the neighborhood and they also did home visits and that type of thing. And as a child, I thought, wow, doctors are healers. That's what I want to be when I
Mm-hmm.
grow up. So by the time I got to college, that I got a rude awakening because what they did was not what I thought I was going to be learning to do. So I immediately changed my career choice and became a social worker. And as a social worker, I covered the whole gambit from infants to seniors, every area of social service I participated in. But one of the things that really concerned me was that everybody was going to the emergency room as their doctors for whatever health problem. I said, wow, something's wrong with this. And that kind of sparked the energy again to want to say, okay, let me look at becoming a doctor. But the timing was right because then it opened up to natural and alternative approaches to healthcare. So I went back and got my training to become a naturopathic practitioner. And as a practitioner, I wanted to add a service to my practice, and so I did what was called a vision quest, which meant I went because I have Native American ancestry, so I went and spent time with Native American experience. And the vision quest is when they put you on a sacred spot and you're connected with nature, and it's only you and nature. And so at this particular time, the spot that I was on, there was a lot of like butterflies and birds and different animals that were coming around. And so you had to write a little diary or journey of what you were experiencing there. So when I went down and they gave me the translation of what was really happening, they said, you're to do what you need to do. You need to be working with your hands. And so I said, okay, well, I thought that meant to deal with massage. So I went to massage when I didn't like massage. And so I liked reflexology, and that opened the doors that became the path of work that I've been doing in terms of focusing on using reflexology. And from there, a whole lot of other different experiences came. But I'll share this little tidbit with you. When I started reflexology, I built my practice with senior citizens. And when you work with seniors, you have to be really on point because seniors are very precise. They're very, I wouldn't say demanding, but they're on point. They know what they want, and you have to be able to deliver exactly what they want. And so from there, what happened was working with the seniors, they liked the reflexology, but then they said, okay, now I like this reflexology. Can you now start taking care of my feet and hands? I said, oh, okay. So that opened up a whole nother avenue, which put me into the beauty industry, which I knew nothing about because all of my training was health based. It was not beauty industry based. So there happened to be an instructor who was a school that was in California that had come to New York, and they were doing an instruction on how to add reflexology to your practice in the beauty industry. I said, well, let me go up and see what they're doing. So I went up and took their training program for that. And I'm based in Washington, D.C. And so they said, well, since we're here on the East Coast, if you could put together a training program, we'll come down to D.C. and do a program. Had never done anything like that before in my life. I called together all my massage therapy friends and we put this training program together. And from there, that led me into the teaching because I wound up becoming their East and Southeast instructor teaching reflexology in the beauty industry. And from there, I started getting, dealing with the teaching experience. I did that for quite a while. And then people started asking me about reflexology for health practitioners. And so then I created a program in terms of going back to my original roots, teaching reflexology to the healthcare industry. And from there, it evolved into where we are today. So that's like kind of a quick overview of my experience and involvement, including reflexology, as it relates to health and wellness.
What an interesting journey. So let's start with the basics for people who
Sure.
don't even know what reflexology is. Could you
Yes.
explain that to us?
Reflexology is the art and science of working specific reflex nerve ending points that are found in your feet and your hands and your ears to relieve stress, improve circulation, and reduce toxins and impurities in the body, along with relaxation. And so, the best way for me to kind of explain it so people can really kind of understand it, think about um, when you look at a chart of the anatomy and you see how all the nerve endings begin in your head and they run straight through your body, ending in your hands, your feet, and your ears. And I like to compare it to like an electrician. When it's like the wiring. We work with the wiring system of the body because the nerve endings are connected with the brain, which is the communication center. And so what happens is what we're looking for is any blockages of energy in those nerve endings that are connected to any particular organ or cell or system as it is found on the hands and feet. So that's kind of like the process in terms of how reflexology works and what it is really all about.
Mhm. So I remember studying reflexology myself when I was in massage therapy school many years ago. And I remember it was a weekend workshop, so it was quite intensive. And I was surprised at how powerful it was. I remember feeling quite that it had a very powerful detoxification effect, right? Like, I remember feeling exhausted kind of by the end of the day. And when you're going through like a cleanse or a detox, I felt like my body was just releasing all this gunk. And prior to massage school, I'd never done any of this type of work before. I was in my early 20s. And I had no idea. I mean, I was like all in my head all the time. I didn't even realize I had a body, much less was aware of what my body was doing. So that I was really struck by that, like the power of it and how much shift it was creating in my body.
And what you said is very true, because what we're talking about is the communication center. And how I like to explain it, which you shared in terms of what it does. Yes, reflexology is a cleansing process, because usually when you're talking about, I always ask, my clients and even with my students, in terms of when we talk about body systems, which is one of the most important systems of the body, is the nervous system, because it is the communication. What is one of the most important organs of the body, which is the colon, because that's the cleansing system. So those two, when you're talking about the nervings and the colon working hand in hand to be about delivering a message and dealing with the cleansing process that's needed in order for the body to go to the process and steps of healing itself. One of the things that I have spent a lot of time on, because I've been doing a lot of research on this, which is how I originally got started in terms of where I'm at today. I've spent a lot of time researching pain. And one of the things that I found as a practitioner, and I'm sure you can understand this as well, when people are in pain, the first thing that they want is relief. And so if they don't know what it is, they automatically go to the doctor. And what the doctor, they're going to the doctor for the sole purpose of relieving pain. But the process is not set up to do that. And so what happens when a person goes to the doctor and they're in pain, they're going to tell the doctor, like, I'm having a real serious pain in my back and I don't know what it is. And the doctor will say, well, okay, we're going to have to do some tests. And so because we're going to have to do some tests, then we'll be able to find out what's going on. But here is a prescription, that you take for the pain. But there's a missing piece, because all you know is that the person's in pain in the back, but you don't have any connection as to what's the cause of that pain in the back. And what I found in my practice is that the missing piece when clients come to you, and before I share this, we as health practitioners often miss the fact that we provide a service, but we also are a business. So when clients come to us, they're coming to us because there's something that they specifically want. And so, from the business perspective, when a client comes to me, the first thing they want is relief from pain. And so, the missing piece is listening. So when a client comes to me, I'm going to spend time listening. Let's talk about your pain. Tell me about it. How did it start? You know, um, what's happening with it? How are you feeling? And through that, I am able to connect what are some of the causes and what are some of the contributing factors to that pain, just by listening. And so once we do that, now we can move to what you are here for, the relief of the pain, which comes through which using the therapy reflexology. But it goes back to touchology, because touchology is the art and science of using the power of touch to assist the body in its healing process. So the first touch point is listening. Listening is touch. It's not physical, but it's mental, it's emotional, and it's physical. So it's all three at the same time. Then we move to the physical component, which is the reflexology. Now that I've got you to the point that you're not feeling the pain that you had when you first came in, now we can move to what's known as the treatment component. And the treatment component, I am a big advocate of integrative approaches to healthcare because there is no one modality that can do it all. We have to integrate the process. And I say that to say, if someone is dealing with pain, and I use the example of back pain, is it because of muscle? So that may mean you need to go to a massage therapist. Is it because of there's pressure in the nerve in the back? You may need to go to acupressure. Is there or acupuncture? Or is there a structural problem? You may need to go to a chiropractor, or we may need to look at physical therapy. But what I'm looking at is all hands-on therapies, the integrated approach using the hands-on therapies to relieve pain. And I've set up so that what I have created in my practice is relieving pain first before treatment using reflexology. And then we integrate it on with the other therapies.
Well, there's so much I want to respond to and just in what you said. Um, just to highlight the importance, like you said, of listening. I think in this day and age, we don't, the doctors especially, I mean, their time is so limited. You have 10, 15 minutes, if that, and they're always running behind. So I don't even know if you're getting your full 10 or 15 minutes sometimes, and they're not listening. And they really, what I mean, it's starting to change. Like, you do have integrative medicine doctors now and functional medicine doctors, which I think are taking this more holistic approach. But I've always kind of felt like Western medicine has gotten too specialized. If you're a gastroenterologist, you just are focused on that part of the body and those systems. If you're an orthopedic, then you're dealing with the bones and muscles and stuff. But often they're not looking at the whole picture. They're not looking at like a chiropractor or even an osteopath might like you're having pain in your wrist, but that might be related to something that happened in your neck, right? And it's about the nerves, that are not maybe functioning, or there's inflammation. Where I want to talk about inflammation too. It's a hot topic right now. But and so the lack of a holistic perspective of how the different systems of the body are working together. And then I also think they're missing a really key piece, which I'd love to hear your perspective on, which is what I would call more the psychological aspect, right? The stress, trauma, all of those things are obviously going to affect how your body functions. And yet we are still living in this fragmented system where if you're having a mental problem or a psychological problem, you come to someone like me. But if you're having a physical problem like pain, you go to someone like you or like the other kind of regular doctor. Um, and I think that we might be missing the overall picture there.
You just hit the nail on the head because what's important is understanding whatever, it's been said that what 95% of all illnesses is a result of stress, but they don't focus on stress. They just throw that out there. But stress and pain are connected. And we have to understand that. And in my practice, what I focus on specifically as it relates to the pain stress connection is whatever pain you are experiencing, whatever, and when I say pain, it can be mental, it can be physical, or it can be emotional. Whatever that pain is, it's a result of something that happened outside of your body that you brought inside your body and have internalized it. Because pain does not happen overnight, it's a process. And what happens is it gets to the point where you're feeling it physically, mentally, or emotionally from the standpoint that it's overwhelming or overload. That's the body saying, I gave you a warning earlier and you did not pay attention. So since you didn't pay attention, I have to put you down. So now we can get to how we're going to resolve this issue with the healing process. And that's why when my clients, patients come to me, I focus on the listening, because what I'm looking for, what is the stress factor? Where is the stress? Because as you talk, I'm going to hear the stress. And when we look at the stress factor, now we can start talking about relieving the pain, the physical pain that you're feeling, the mental pain that you're feeling, the emotional pain that you're feeling. We work on relieving that. Then we move to the integrative approaches to the therapy or treatment that's being involved. And when you talked about doctors not having enough time, I want to share this with your listening audience. I wrote a book called Reflexology Today, A Family Affair. And when I wrote the book, I was on my way to China to study reflexology. When I got to China, one of the things that was real important to me in China, the doctors spend anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half with a patient before they even discuss treatment. During that consultation, they bring the family in, because now we've got to look at what is going to be the preventive approach so that the other families do not have this. And remember, a long time ago, we used to talk about prevention. Now it's a word that nobody knows or even discuss, period, in terms of prevention. And so their whole approach is looking at the whole body from a preventive approach. But what that proved to me is, because when I wrote the book specifically because I felt that at least one member in a household should know some basic reflexology techniques that they can use to relieve stress and pain. And so through that experience, it gave me a confirmation that I was on track in terms of where I wanted to take reflexology, from the standpoint of helping people know that you have the power to do self help techniques that can relieve stress and pain, so that for the sole purpose you can work effectively with your practitioner. Because we've got to learn how to stop thinking that it's the practitioner's job only to do the healing. It's a two-way street. It has to be the practitioner and the client coming together in oneness to be about producing the healing process that the body will automatically do if everybody is working together.
It's so true, and it's so much such a more empowering approach. I think it's time to move away from this, I would call patriarchal, system where you go to the male doctor, right? Who's put on a pedestal like he's God, right? And doctor, heal me, fix me, right? That's the paradigm that Western medicine often comes from. I love this idea of the collaborative approach. Nowadays, if I go to a doctor, I want to be heard. I want the doctor to listen to what I know, because I'm the expert on my body, not him or her or them, whoever, right? They need to take me seriously, or else I'm going to move on to someone else. And I think, unfortunately, most people have not had that. I don't know if it's confidence or assertiveness or whatever it is, to be able to, really advocate for themselves and speak up for themselves. Like, no, I don't just want to take this pill. I want to get to the root of what's causing this, and I need to know. So I love that piece that you highlight. And then the listening, coming back to that, the body is always talking to us, and pain is a signal. Like you said, the body is trying to tell us something. If we're not listening, that signal is going to get louder and louder. So when you're talking about preventative, can you just also comment on what happens, what have you seen happens for people when they don't address, right? When they ignore the signals and they're not practicing self-help techniques to manage stress, what then tends to happen for the body and for the psyche over time?
Over time, you're on a railroad to destruction, point blank. That's what it boils down to, because you fail to deal with the initial stress that led to the pain, or that has turned the pain that has now turned into a health diagnosis. And with that diagnosis, 9 out of 10, you're on a lot of medications. You're on a lot of things that's breaking the body down instead of building it up, because what it's doing, it's stopping the body's natural ability to heal itself. And in that process, um, you destroy a lot mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and even financially. You destroy all of that just because of a situation that happened outside of your body that you brought in, internalized, and kept dwelling on it to the point that it became a health problem. And so we've got to understand that we are a such a uniquely built, our structure is so uniquely built. I always, this goes back to answering what you were saying. When you look at the automobile, we know about our cars, and what we don't understand is that our cars were made in the same manner of how our body is made and operates. It's the same operation. When you get your car, it says X number of time, you take it such and such a place for maintenance and all that. We do all of that for the car. The body is designed to be done the exact same way. And when we understand that, then what? You're able to operate more effectively, because you're dealing with those stress issues before they manifest in something that's out of control, that all of a sudden, just like if you don't do the maintenance correctly on your car just what? Gonna break down, won't work anymore. And that's what happens to the body as well.
Hmm. So then do you recommend, so as you teach, your clients about self-care and all of that, does that also include teaching them how to, yeah, do some of this stuff on themselves? And because, like, I think a lot of people also have this like perspective that I'm going to go see a healer, a doctor, whatever, for a time limited. I'm going to see them until my pain goes away, and then I'm done. And then they're not necessarily doing the ongoing maintenance, right, of their body and mind.
In my practice, when they come for reflexology, I usually suggest we do 5 sessions. And doing the reason why I say that, because during those 5 sessions, I'm teaching you the basic reflexology techniques that you should be using whenever you're feeling, if you came for stress, if you came for physical pain, if you came for any type of emotional issues, whatever. I show you how you can do basic reflexology techniques to relieve and release that pain. So now you have a 24/7 emergency pain relief technique that you can do. And so that way it helps you not to have to fall back on the medication that does nothing but numb the nerve endings, that causes bigger problems that you don't want to deal with. So yes, it's about teaching. And so after that, now we move on to dealing with the integrative approaches with the various practitioners that may be needed for whatever your particular health problem is. And that's a concept that I'm also working with practitioners to understand, that we've got to be collective. If we understand the power of the collectiveness, we can be about providing wellness to a lot of people who never thought that they could ever be well again. Because when you talk about, we're talking about energy, that's some real powerful healing energy that's going into a person to bring about their whole optimum health and wellness. And I have seen it, it does work. But in our society, we've kind of gotten away from being connected. And that's the big problem. And if we think back on the pandemic, what that did to us, it separated us in more ways than we can possibly imagine. And we are not only are we seeing it, but we're feeling it. And especially right now, we start talking about mental health. And that is a big, my unscientific research about the pandemic. I contribute that to the pandemic because the number one thing that caused most people, I feel, to make transition during that time was the lack of touch. People could not see their family members. People could not touch their family members. People could not connect with their family. And all of that played a big role because as humans, we are touching as a people.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, there's so much to say on that. I think in general in America, we are very touch phobic.
Yes,
Unfortunately, touch has become highly sexualized.
yes, yes,
And so touch is interpreted only really through that lens. And so it can feel very intrusive and it can feel like an attack of some sort. And people, like as a mental health practitioner, I'm not
yes,
supposed to, right, touch my clients.
yes,
Whereas if you went to other parts of the world, hands-on healing, oh my gosh, it's a practice that's been going on for over 50,000 years, or more. Since the beginning
exactly.
of humanity, we've been doing hands-on healing, and we are meant to touch. Why, you may have noticed, if you're watching the video,
Sure,
my little
sure.
kitty cat was coming in here a couple of times. We and how good it feels when you're petting your dog, your cat, your
Yes,
hamster, whatever
yes,
it is,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like it produces endorphins. It releases our feel good chemicals. It lowers the stress
Yes,
hormones and all the
yes,
things. We know this. Science even tells us this now. Science is
exactly.
catching up. So touch is absolutely something that I think in this day and age, many people are touch deprived. And it is creating a crisis with mental and physical health.
And if you notice it, do you know what population is suffering the most from lack of touch? Our young people. I mean, we've got a generation of young people who have grown up not being touched.
Well, right, because they're always
And
on these
they,
things.
but the thing about it is, it even goes way back before that because of the fact of the matter is that nobody understood the real power of touch and gave it to young people. And as you became an adult with that, you don't touch. And then we moved into what the technological age where touch is definitely unheard of. Nobody even, I mean, these young people don't even understand the importance of that. So touch to them is like dealing with well, however they deal with those social media, those kind of things like that. But when you think about it, what they're missing is when we talk about the bullies, when we talk about the anger, when we talk about you respond in a form of touch which is negative because you've never been shown the positive side. So you don't even know that that even exists. And I say that to say it's because when young people are under stress, as adults, we never think about, okay, when I get stressed, I'm gonna go get a massage or something like that. Why not introduce that young person to that as a form of stress release for them as well? We need to start integrating those kind of things so young people will know that there are things out there that are stress relievers. And that's why I focus on reflexology as a family affair because it's easy to start working with somebody's hands and feet to get them to the ultimate point of understanding the power of touch.
So could you talk with us a little bit more specifically about the type of touch and the points that are touched in reflexology? Like, we know, for example, if you look at a graphic or an image, that there are actually specific parts of the hands and feet and ears that correspond to different organs in the body. So could you tell us a little bit more about how that works?
Let me give you a little intro. Everybody listening on this call has done or received reflexology and don't know that they have. And this goes back to, remember a little thing called this little piggy. That is reflexology, whether you know it or not. Because as when you say this little piggy and you start circling, the toes, and you start walking up and down the toes. And what happens with a baby or a child when you do the little piggy? They get so happy, they smile, and they even may even go to sleep behind that. Well, the nerve ending to your head, all of the nerve endings to your head are in your fingers and in your toes. So when you start activating and stimulating, the message goes to the brain that we need to provide some relief because there's stress in the toes or in the fingers in terms of, so we send what's known as endorphins, the body's natural pain relievers, to that area. So that's like the process when you look at it. And to help your audience understand, the fingers and the toes are the nerve endings to the head. Your neck area is where the base of your fingers. Then you move down here in the hard part. This is where you find your chest, your heart, and your lungs. Then in the midsection, this is your abdominal, all of your abdominal organs. Then when you get to the heel, this is where you have the eliminating. And so when you look at what in terms of when you understand, just picture your whole body on your hands and on your feet, and where how you picture your body and the area that may be in stress. All you do is you take your little thumb and just start doing a little walking in that area. That's your mini reflexology session. You may not know the exact area like reflexologists know, but it still gets the same benefit because you're activating the nerve endings to provide relief to that particular area. So that's like the whole concept. Another way that I can kind of explain it for people to see how it goes together. Think about the funny bone. If you hit it, what's the first thing you're going to do?
Yell out in pain
Exactly. The first thing is going to be
or
a
some four-letter words.
verbal. It's going to be a verbal response. What happens is message goes to the brain. Trauma in the elbow area. Then what's the next thing you're going to do? You're going to start rubbing it. And when you rub it, message goes to the brain. Release the endorphins, the body's natural pain relievers. And so all of a sudden, comfort starts happening. It starts soothing that area. And so that's the same process that happens with reflexology. You're activating the nerve endings to send the message to the brain to do what needs to be done in that particular area, to be about bringing about relief, whatever the relief is. Your energy level may be rock bottom. You may need to have your energy brought up. You may be in need of where, like, oh wow, I need to be about releasing, some toxins. Reflexology will do that. Whatever the body's in need of, the message through the nerve endings as you stimulate will be about bringing that relief. So that's the concept of how reflexology works.
Wonderful. And do you have a recommendation for folks? Like, is there a quick something they could do for just stress relief? Is there a specific point, let's say on the hands, that they might massage a little bit or stimulate that would help with that?
One of the things I say, and let me tell you this before I answer your question, a big no word was just said, and that's massage. And what I want to clarify, massage is not reflexology, and reflexology is not massage. We are kin to each other. We're kin, but we are different from each other. Massage works with the muscular system, and reflexology works with the nervous system. Now, in reflexology, we don't break the body up in parts like you do in allopathic medicine or specialized medicine or specialized modalities. The difference is, to answer your question, what a person can do is learn how to use your thumb to do this kind of technique. It's a bending. It's called walking. We call this walking. Whenever you get in the habit, you start feeling anxious or you're feeling any discomfort, just start walking your palm and you'll start getting relief. That's all you have to do as the basic foundation. Just walk the palm, and you can do it on both hands. And that can be what you call your first stage stress reliever.
Wonderful. So I've loved this conversation. I did want to hit one last, just to get your feedback on this. I mentioned this before. Inflammation.
Yes.
Inflammation seems to be such a hot topic right now. More and more, the research is showing that it's basically inflammations that seems to be at the root of every medical health condition. Obviously, it's exacerbated by stress. How has that shown up in your work? How do you address that, or what's your perspective on that?
When you think of inflammation, what are you thinking about? You're thinking about what? An area that what's inflamed. It's filled with something. That's a problem called toxins. It's what has happened is, when we talk about the stress and you've internalized the stress, when stress gets inside your body and you internalize it, it affects different organs. It affects different organs inside the systems of the body. So what happens is, when the effect happens, the body's automatic defense comes into play, trying to block this, whatever, this foreign substance. And if it can't block it, or if it does block it, that's it's going to move in some kind of way around the blockage when it finds, and it's going to go to an area inside your body. What it's trying to do is come out, but it can't come out. So since it can't come out, now what do you have? A backed up area that eventually is what? Toxins and impurities are being released, and it turns into what's known as inflammation. So, what we have to look at is, how do we reduce the stress so we can get to relieving the toxins and impurities that's in that area, so that we can reduce the inflammation.
Yeah. And really, to emphasize here, thank you for that. And to emphasize here, like, and this is really what I learned from traditional Chinese medicine, is that the body has the capacity to heal itself. If we can
Exactly.
remove the blockages and the stressors and the whatever it is that's standing in the way of the body doing its job, then it can, and we can have profound healing from all
Yes.
kinds of different conditions. So I've really loved this conversation. I think it's been such a treasure trove of valuable stuff. If people want to find out more about you and your work, where can they go?
Okay, you can visit my website, which is focusonhealing.com, or you can, I'm a big fan of LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn as well. And I also have a podcast, which is called Touchology Wellness Experience. That's another way to connect with me. And one of the things I'll share with your listeners, if you have any pain questions that you want answered, when you go on my website, go to my contact page and just type in your question. I will definitely get back to answer it for you.
Fabulous. Anything else that we didn't cover here, or any final thoughts you might have?
One of my final thoughts, in addition to thanking you for having me as your guest, is there's an African tradition: when you come to someone's home, you bring a gift. And so, my gift to you and your listeners is how to relieve pain and stress naturally. I have a poster that you can download, And all you have to do is go to touchology.reflexology.com and download the posters. And that's my gift to you and your listening audience.
Thank you so much. That's such a lovely gift. And thank you so much for the gift of your time and your presence and all of the work you've done to help empower people to heal from their pain, to have a voice to be heard, and for creating more positivity in the world. Just like I feel uplifted just from our conversation today, and I feel hopeful. So thank you so much for the gift
Thank
of that.
Thank you for having me. And I leave this with your listening audience is that know that it is the power of touch that heals all.
Yes. Thank you so much. And thanks everyone for tuning in today. If you have liked this podcast, please do share, like, subscribe, comment, all the things so we can get this information out there in the hands of more people. This is Dr. Adriana signing off. See you next time. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Kaleidoscope of Possibilities, Alternative Perspectives on Mental Health. This has been Dr. Adriana Popescu. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe and share with others. To find out more about me, my guests, and more, please visit my website at adrianapopescu.org. See you next time.